Thank you. So I will start on plant-based. I will start giving and sharing few numbers. Every year, the world agriculture is producing 555 million tons of plant-based proteins. 440 millions are given to animal as feed. Animal globally are producing 90 million tons of protein. So the global yield is around 20%. It means that when you use animal for bioconversion, you lose 80% of the protein you feed. The second big volume is going straight to the food market, 112 million tons. It's everything you can eat directly without fractionation. And the last market is the fractionation, the protein ingredients. And today it's very small because it's around 3 million, only 3 million tons per year. The world leader of this market is based on soy. You have soy concentrate and soy isolates. It's about 2 millions. The second number is coming from wheat. It's a little bit less than 1 million tons. Far behind, you have the pea. Pea is making a lot of noise right now, but it's only around 150,000 tons globally. And way behind, you have all the others. Can be rice, can be faba bean, can be potato. So globally, all the others is less than 50,000 tons. So you see that when we speak about plant-based protein ingredients, it's a very diversified market, but with only two big leaders. So that's the first thing I want to share. Now the market trends. Where is the market going? Of course, the big leader will still be in a very good position. And why are they in a so good position? It's because of price. Because soy is extremely cheap compared to other seeds, and it's containing a lot of protein. So it's giving a double advantage. Wheat is also very cheap, and the wheat protein, which is the wheat gluten, is quite simple to extract and to produce. So it means that right now, the price in the market of the wheat gluten is low in comparison with other plant-based protein. The number 3, which is pulse, from the pulse family, which is pea, is also a cheap seed, even if now all the prices are moving up and very complex to follow. But the pea, the yellow pea historically is a quite cheap seed. And this is why the pea protein are quite competitive. For the rest, you have always to think, when you want to valorize protein from plant-based material, what is the price, what is the availability, and is this product already used in food, or is it only used for feed purpose? For example, the yellow pea was historically mainly used for feed, which is a good point when you want to move from feed to food because you are generating added value. Faba bean was a little bit used for food, but majority was used for feed. So again, you are bringing value. We receive and improve a lot of questions about chickpea. Chickpea today is mainly used for food. So you can perfectly technically extract protein from chickpea, but the potential of added value will be limited. But chickpea is bringing also some advantages. I will come on that later on. So you see, when you start a project, you have to question yourself about why I need to pick up this raw material. Opportunities. Where are the main challenges right now? So why these two big players, which are soy and wheat, not performing forever? It's because they receive a lot of challenges. The first one is about allergenicity. So you know that wheat gluten is challenged about allergenicity and some disease. We don't know if they are real or not. And the soy is also part of the allergenic labeling in Europe and in America. So a lot of players want to escape from these two sources because of this allergenic issue. We also seek about organoleptic profile. We know that when we move from animal-based protein to plant-based protein, there is a challenge. And a lot of people are working hard right now in R&D to improve this. But it's still a big challenge, and a lot of complaints are coming from customers. Um, a way to get potentially added value is the functional properties. And again, we need to improve on that. The main bottleneck will be the price. And I'm sure that during the debate we'll come on that. And the allergenicity and the availability. So I'm ready for discussion.
Okay, now we're going to, no, I think it's about the insects. Yeah.
Whatever.
What do you think? Yeah, we're going to go for the insects now.
If you want
That was my order.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm happy to be with you today, talking about Ynsect. As the CEO of one leading company, but also I've been co-founding the European sector of Ynsect, working a lot about the regulation, which was one of the main bottlenecks compared to plants. Plants, as you said, has been hidden for a very long time. Ynsect too, it's not new at all if you think about silkworms. Silkworms has been one of the foundation of the economy between Asia and Europe for centuries. And for the silk, but the silkworm pupae have been eaten for a very long time in Asia and also in Europe. So it's not new, but it has been forgotten with the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century and earlier the 20th centuries. In Europe, the insects were consumed. And now it's back with technology and with the need of more sovereignty, more sustainability, and healthy ingredients. Using the mature technologies that are there from other industry, the food industry, and robotics, data. And we have different insects. We are farming beetles. There are also flies. There are also crickets. So 8 species have been approved in Europe. So the first bottleneck, which was regulation, in animal feed, in plant fertilizer, and in human food, were released in the past few years. So everything now is all applications, all end markets are approved. So you see, it's something bigger than talking about alternative proteins. Insects, in general, are a new sector, a new filière in French, because you have products for the plants, for the farm animals, for the pets, and for humans. You have proteins, you have also oil. The oil fraction goes together, of course, when you process the insect lac for the plants, but also the manure of insects, which are great organic fertilizer that can fully replace chemical fertilizer and a very good support for the plants, for the farmers, and especially now when you have like half of the fertilizer facilities in Europe being closed because of the gas price and the issues of the supply from Russia. So there are a lot of genuine interest from the farmer, more and more now for the fertilizer part of the insect sector. On the proteins, so now as the bottleneck of regulation is now released, the second one was about technology. So Ynsect is 11 years old, so we are already there for a long time. Building a new industry is not easy, it takes time to move from a very small scale to scale up for a small lab to a pilot prototyping to reach an industrial stage. We have 2 farms in operation that are about 4,000 square meters, so it's not small. They have been running for about 10 years combined together in France and in the Netherlands. And we are now opening the largest insect farm in the world. It's in Amiens, so very close to the colleagues north of Paris, 1 hour from here. So this is called InFarm. It's 40,000 square meters on about 40 meters high. So it's a very the result of a lot of technological innovation and scaling and reaching the price parity with other ingredients, which are animal-based ingredients, mainly used today. The first market we are reaching are pet food, because it was the first market approved when we started, again, back on regulation. So we have the strongest maturity, commercial maturity there, with a lot of customers, and we are there and benchmark towards high quality animal proteins coming from chicken or lamb, and we are really competitive there, but bringing also value on the nutrition, the composition of the proteins, the amino acid profile, also digestibility, and also hypoallergenicity. The main reason why the pet food companies are buying the products and really looking for the opening of this large farm to get more products. The second market we've been addressed, and the first one to be approved after pet food, has been fish feed. And fish feed is, and finally, both sectors are carnivorous animals, and they need a lot of animal proteins, and the research has helped to reduce the use of animal protein. They use more plant-based proteins, and mainly soy has been mainly used to feed fish, chicken, pigs, and others. But it has a limit. You cannot bring a salmon cannot become vegan. It needs still animal proteins. There is still differences there, and the products we have are natural for wild fish, and also giving a lot of performance. This is what the customers are buying. Fish are growing faster, having less mortality, better digestibility. This has been a lot of peer-review research done with universities like INRAE, Wageningen in the Netherlands, and other in Norway, or even also in Greece on sea bass. So there is a lot of evidence when you add part of insect proteins in fish feed, 5 to 30%. The rest is mainly plant-based proteins. It's really bringing a lot of value. And the issues in this sector is the fish meal supply. The premium, the best protein on the market is limited because it's coming from fisheries, mainly from Peru and Chile, and you have limited supply. So we see a very strong demand in pets, in fish, in plants, we'll say fertilizer part. And the very last one is human food, which is maybe more the topic of interest for you in this SIAL event. It's something which is, again, not new if you go back to the silkworm industry, but there is a new generation now with ingredients. We're not talking about eating whole insect. It's about an experience of ingredients bringing new functionalities from digestibility, from texture or taste, and so on. And we have acquired the leading company in this sector, in insect sector, last year in Netherlands. So we are really starting there because regulation was the last trigger there. All feed plants were approved, and humans were the last one, and it's called the Novel Food Dossier. The first one were approved in Europe last year. New ones are coming now. So we see this market start. I mean, the barriers start to be removed. Volumes start to come there, so to show that you can sell the products, and the quality is really approved by the customers. You have a lot again of research done by Utrecht or Wageningen compared to milk, which is the gold standard in the sector, showing almost the same quality in digestibility or the PDCAS and other metabolic results. And several life cycle assessments also have been performed by the company and INRA or Quantis with us, showing also very good profile similar to plants. So there is a lot of evidence there for customers, and we are happy to start this market. It's small, it's new. We have to be humble there. I think you asked the question: are we going to eat everyday insect? I think it's not the topic. It's really to propose a new supply, a new source of ingredients for customers, consumers to have this proposition. Overall, it's a question to eat less of just few ingredients. In the past, I would say, the decades and 100 years, agriculture has ultra simplified the supply. There is about 15, 20 ingredients from few cereals, few meats, and few fruit and vegetables eaten by a majority of consumers. Humans have a capacity to eat way more diversified source of ingredients. So insects are part of it, the algae are part of it, ferments, fungi, etc., and maybe also the cellular meat. It's a question of diversity. The question is not competition. We are not in competition together. We are here to create this diversity for the consumers in different channels, in different moments, for different pricing. And it's good because all of them have great, I would say, sustainability and health stories for the consumers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So now we've seen the plants, we've seen the insects. We're going to now see the fermentation process, please, with Luis.
Yes. Hello, everybody. So I will speak about fermentation to produce proteins. So there is several ways to do that. You can use different kind of microorganisms, bacteria, yeast, fungi, algae, and different kind of feedstock. Molasses, gas, or other agricultural residues, and that's a big trend now in proteins. The last year, the amount of fundraising for production of proteins through fermentation was $1.6 billion. It's almost the same amount as plant-based proteins last year. So that's a big trend. So why to produce protein with fermentation? There is an interest about the product because the microorganism have a very high level of proteins, more than plant proteins. For instance, for bacteria, it's at least 50% of proteins, and you can go until 70 or maybe 80% of proteins. So it's very high level of proteins. To get such a level with plant protein, you have to transform that to extract and to concentrate the proteins. Also, the amino acid profile is different than the plant-based proteins, so you have a more balanced amino acid profile with microorganism. You have also some advantage about organoleptic properties. For instance, protein from fungi have neutral taste and is important to formulate food product. And yes, so that's the main advantage for the product. And after that, you have also environmental advantage, because we will use waste as a feedstock and non-food crop as a feedstock. Of course, it's very productive system, because, for instance, a bacteria, there is a new generation all the 20 minutes, so it's growing very fast. And of course, you don't need a lot of space to grow such a microorganism. And so that's two big advantage. And another advantage, not so many people speak about that, but I think it's very interesting advantage of microorganism, and that's a specific property of microorganism. It's you can use mineral nitrogen to grow microorganism, and it's very interesting property, because of course we use mineral nitrogen in crop field, but as you know, most of the nitrogen go in groundwater or in the atmosphere, and the use of mineral nitrogen is the most important source of pollution from agriculture, as you know. And when you purge mineral nitrogen in a fermenter, of course, it is not going in the atmosphere or in the groundwater. And as you know, the use of mineral nitrogen is the most important innovation in agriculture at the beginning of this century. Thanks to the Haber-Bosch process, we can use the nitrogen from the atmosphere to produce ammoniac. And that's the most important innovation in agriculture. That's why we can supply food for everybody thanks to this innovation. So through fermentation, we can exploit, use this very important innovation from the beginning of the century, but in a more innovative, in more efficient way, thanks to fermentation. And of course, there is some bottleneck, because it's this kind of process are using energy. You need steam for fermenter, and of course that there is an impact on the environmental performances of the process. And of some process use a lot of water also. That's another bottleneck. But there is several ways to cope with that. And another way to use fermentation to accelerate the use of plant-based protein is precision fermentation. So precision fermentation is the fact to use a microorganism as a cell factory, and you can produce additive, functional ingredient. And most of the company, they are targeting the plant-based alternative market, and they will use this functional ingredient to improve the formulation based on plant-based protein. And the most famous example of that is Impossible Food. So Impossible Foods, they are producing leghemoglobin, is a protein and this protein can link with iron. And as you know, iron is responsible for the specific taste of meat. So in Possible Food, they are producing this functional ingredient, leghemoglobin, through fermentation, and they are using this ingredient in plant-based formulation. And the interest is to combine very low impact source of protein, that is plant-based protein, and to use fermentation with more impact, but the target is a very precise molecule, and with this molecule we can make formulation that are better, and through fermentation we can have better use of plant-based protein and to use this protein that have less impact than other sources.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're looking at each of these different alternatives. The reason is afterwards we're going to compare and see which ones we should keep, okay? So the last one, Nathalie is going to talk about the cellular agriculture, what it is and what it brings, yeah?
Hello, so yeah, I'm going to talk about cellular agriculture. So maybe to explain what is in this scope. So the idea is to develop a new type of animal product alternatives with biotech techniques. So we have the development of cultured meat from cells. It's a new type of meat cultured from cells. And we also have precision fermentation, but our focus is the animal proteins only. So milk proteins, egg proteins, gelatin, things like collagen. So for the cultured meat, the basic principle of that is to take some cells from an animal, to put it in a machine, a bioreactor, to put the nutrient the cells need to grow. And they will make this natural process to divide and grow in two type of cells that are supposed to provide in the end. So in the end, we have a new type of meat. Depending on the type of cells we actually use in the beginning, we can culture meat cells, fat cells, connective tissue cells, from different type of cells, and these products are still under development. So so maybe just about what is available today. If we talk about cultured meat, we only have a very small quantity of this meat available in Singapore. And actually, it's also
Singapore has been coming more and more as a country with a lot of things happening.
Yeah. I think it's also because they don't really have farmlands to grow their own food. So they are especially interested in this sector because they want to have like a better sovereignty, food sovereignty there. So they are very, very interested, and they are also pushing in this direction, like in terms of research and also regulations. For example, they said that if you want to bring something on the market, we're here to help. If you have questions, we can discuss. And for example, in Europe, it's not totally the same. So for like if we talk about regulations, it's the novel food in Europe, like the process we have to go through.
That's the presentation we had right before this, yes?
So it's a novel food, but with novel food, it's more difficult to discuss with the people in charge of that. So.
You pay, you wait 18 months, between 15K and 150K, and then you wait again, and maybe you're accepted. This is what he had to go through.
Yeah, it's taking some time and some resources. So maybe, but just to explain the type of products, so there are different types of meat, but also fish and seafood that are under development. So many types. Again, we were talking about diversity. It's really also the idea to bring more diversity, more options for the consumers, actually different type of alternative proteins. And also why we develop that is to mainly, I guess, to do better than what the plant-based product can do today.
What is it that they can't do today?
But it's difficult for the plant-based product to be very close to the animal product in terms of sensory profile, organoleptic properties, because the plant-based protein, they have certain characteristics that are different from the animal proteins. So the whole idea is to really use a technology that could bring a product that could be much more closer to the conventional animal product that we consume.
So if I understand right, we're trying to find alternatives to animal proteins, right? In terms of look, in terms of nutrition.
Yep.
Okay. Which one is the closest, if I was to look into nutrition, which one is the closest one? Starting with you, Nathalie.
But the product are still under development, so we cannot really answer today.
No, we can't at
but
all?
We have some information, but like the companies are developing product and we have limited access to what they develop today. But I guess that it's going to be very close. But it's also a question of regulation, because with the regulation, if you're supposed to give something that is similar, like to replace the product, they need to have the same properties, same nutritional properties profile.
So you're saying that maybe it will never happen?
No, I think it's going to happen, but we cannot test and verify today because it's still under development.
Okay, so as you can see, we don't know where we're going. We're trying. It's costing a lot of money. You can stop me. I'm taking the lead, as you can see. So basically, we're just waiting. You're launching, then you're going to have to certify it as well, right?
I think it's not costing a lot of money. We have just investors investing and taking risk in different fields, but it's not costing any money to human citizens. Huh?
But
Yeah.
actually,
No.
there are some grants going to this sector.
Some to initiate.
Like, for example, in the Netherlands, 60 million, a few months ago, they decided to really do something to bring a whole ecosystem, cereal agriculture ecosystem in the Netherlands, because in the Netherlands, they want to really focus on a strategic domain this one.
Okay, so what you're saying is countries are taking the lead on certain aspects of alternatives. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So if I was to ask you the question, what would France be taking the lead on?
Today we are the leader in Ynsect, for
Yes.
sure. Europe is the world leader because of regulation. It's the first continent that has an homogeneous regulatory framework, which is giving a clear leadership for companies, because investors then they have the visibility and they can invest in companies because they know the market is existing. There is no limit there. It's a question then to be competitive, which is another topic. So Europe is the lead in terms of IP, in terms of number of companies, in terms of funds raised for Ynsect. And within Europe, it used to be Netherlands, the leaders, and today it's France. We have the three most advanced companies, so we are the leading companies in the world for beetles, and we have two other companies, Innovafeed and Agronutris, being the leader in the fly segments, which are because insect diversity is also pretty broad, and you have as much differences between a fly, a cricket, and a beetle, like between a beef, a chicken, and a pig. Because that's biodiversity is pretty broad. It's small but pretty diverse. So it's good indeed. Insects are in France. There is a clear leadership on insects, but I think also fermentation. I was in another roundtable just before with Ferment du Futur. There is also something, because the ferment is the largest one of the largest contributors to the exports of food from France, with the wine and the cheese and yogurts.
Yes. In France, general in Europe, we are not in advance for this part of precision fermentation.
We are or we're not?
We are not because of the novel food regulation. I think there are more startups in Israel and United States because it's easier to get authorization to launch on the market. But there is still a strong experience and skills about fermentation in France, with a lot of very important companies in biotechnology.
We have students in this room who are, raise your hand, they're learning about students here are the future as well.
Okay. And yes, we have maybe the single cell protein is not so well developed in France because maybe there is a little bit competition from the plant-based proteins, and a lot of industrial companies are very strong on plant-based protein in France. So maybe there is a little bit some competition between the two technologies.
Competition is always very good because it brings innovation.
Yeah.
So do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And Europe and France are quite good in plant-based. So we are late in soy, but we are extremely good in wheat and pea, because we have the three major players, historical major players on pea are in Europe. So plant-based is in a good position, but there are a lot of competitors around the world. North America, Australia, Russia was in a good position for a while, but now it's a little bit more complex. But everywhere you grow pulses and plant-based protein, you can, of course, do fractionation.
Nathalie, are we...
Maybe another vision.
Yes.
I think, for example, we have aware of like any public project in our sector.
None?
None in
None?
France.
Why?
It's a good question.
I'm asking
like,
it. Why?
But it looks to me that the government is maybe not so interested in helping in the development of this product.
There's always a reason. Isn't there some IP on it? Or?
No, I would say it's more about political questions.
Okay.
Developing alternatives to animal products is sometimes not so easy because we have a strong farming ecosystem.
You're talking about lobbying.
Yeah.
Oh, lobbying. We talked about regulation. Let's talk about lobbying as well, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, of course, if lobbying is a big thing. If you haven't seen on Netflix What the Health, just watch it. You're going to understand about this. Okay. So they're very good. So, all right. So that's the issue.
But yeah, because I think that it's quite a shame to have like not in one like little public research project going on, and we have some in other countries, in countries that also have a strong animal farming industry as well. Like for example in the Netherlands, they have a strong animal farming industry, but they also have innovation.
Okay.
So
Netherlands is like the competitor, or is in the top in the European countries, based on everything you've been saying. They're one of the major players, right?
Top country.
Yeah,
because actually they know that they are small and they need to innovate. It's not a big and powerful country, so they have like to focus on innovation.
Okay, very good. So we're talking about, did you want to say something else, Luis?
Yeah, just in biotechnology, in France, we have a very strong ecosystem from strain development with Genopol. Toulouse White Biotechnology is very reference in Europe for the development of strain. You have research center like Pivert for the scale-up of process. So you have all the value chain of research to develop biotechnologies in France. So.
Okay. So the only thing you're missing is investments or people who are willing to invest for research.
Yes, but we have an industrial project about a single-cell protein in France. You have a company like Le Safre, it's a yeast producer, so he specializes in microorganisms. They have developed a protein concentrate from yeast. And you have another company like Arbium. They are producing protein through fermentation with carbohydrate from woods. So they are using wood to produce protein. It's true, it's not a joke. And so we have very good example in front also about this topic, but maybe a little bit less developed than in Netherlands and United States.
So I have plenty questions, but I'm going to take questions in the room already. Do you agree? I'm just going to play it like this, right? You're a student. No, you have a startup. You told me you have a startup, right? Yes. Oh, wait. Do you want to say what your startup is about?
Yeah, so I have...
You can give your name your startup, ask for money, this is how it works. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Léon Schran and I'm an investor. So I have an Asian shop in Brittany. And so I sold and I tried to find other alternative for the food. And I have invested in a startup. It's called Origin. And we are making a plant-based product. So the startup is quite new, and it's a bit difficult to enter the market, find new customers, but it takes time. But I'm quite interested in all sorts of alternative proteins, and also for insects. And I have a question for you, Antoine. So how do you feed the different kind of insect that you have? And do you think that you already answered part of the questions, but do you think that France is a good place to start this kind of business, and why?
Thanks for your question. Insects are pretty flexible in what you give as nutrients. It's compared to maybe some biotech where they only sugar, it's a sugar, and that's it. Then you need to develop the genetics to expand the possibilities. Insects are all animals. They have a very broad range of stuff they can eat. In our R&D in Genopole, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, we have more than 300 different substrates that have been qualified and that can be used. And our knowledge, we are formulating a feed which is performant to the insect. So we have insect nutritionists and develop formula recipes that are very good for the north of France, near Amiens, for our big farm there. But we have about 15 other projects happening right now in the world with different partners and discussing a new other development of vertical farms. In the Midwest, in the US, it's another kind of recipe with more with corn byproducts, for instance. So it's from the field to the final, we'll say, food products. We are using the side streams and byproducts. It depends on the regulation. Also, Europe, for instance, you cannot eat post-consumer waste, like anything that will be in the garbage here, even if they are separated. You cannot give it to insect. It's not allowed in European regulation. You cannot give manure to insect also that will be used as food after. So there is different regulation that blocks some circular economy aspects, but still a lot of possible. France, then to your second question, is a great place. It's one of the top 5, or don't remember, agriculture and food country in the world. So you have a lot of research, as we mentioned, a lot of universities, knowledge. We're working with INRAE, CNRS for a long time. I am engineer in agriculture from the Agro Paritech and Agro Campus schools. So there is a lot of knowledge also there. You have a lot of strong players that can be suppliers. We are working with the COPs and the different food processing companies as suppliers, and also with cooperative and other big food or feed companies downstream. And you have a strong political, I would say, innovation programs in France. Indeed, sometimes there's questions about where they put the money, but there is a lot of money happening, from BPI, the French public bank, supported by the European Commission. So we have been heavily supported by the state. But as many other companies in many different startup sectors, BPI is a shareholder. They have supported some grants to us. And Europe has now a new innovation agenda now released this summer, and hopefully they will help to develop even faster innovation, especially in the topic now of inflation of energy prices or fertilizer prices. We need even more sovereignty after the COVID crisis, and I think there is a lot of tools. It's not perfect. There's this mention about the agriculture, cellular agriculture is a question. There is other there. The state could support more, but there is good support and a good excellence in the sector.
Hey, that was a great question. Thank you. How about another one? Don't get scared. Here you go. Your question. So, Celine, you didn't raise your hand. How did you raise? I'm blind. I'm half blind.
Thank you. So I have a few questions. Yeah, sorry. I'm Caroline Nekofa. I work for the company Chemin Industries, so supplying antioxidant and antimicrobial as natural as possible if we can. So one of my first question will be also for Antoine. And my next question will be for Nathalie. So talking about regulation, when you introduce an insect in a recipe, how it is the labeling when we talk about pet food or when we talk about food, because we know that today most of the consumer or producer want to avoid any E-number. So this is something that has been really stressed out for the last, I would say, 10 years. And now there is a sense of going back to that because on the other end, regulation really want to enforce the fact that anything that you put in a recipe and that has a functionality or a technological functionality has to be declared. So in the end, we will get back to this E-number on the label. So,
thanks for your question. On both, we are way more aware about pet food because it's the first sector we have been because of regulation initially, and where we have the highest numbers of contracts and more than 100 million of contracts in this sector with leading companies in the space. So it's not an additive because it's a raw material. So its use depends on the company. It could be 5%, 15, 20% of the recipe. So it's not a small additive. It's a raw material. Aside other, some customers have the strategy to be like the only protein, animal protein source in their brand, in their range. Depends. We have few options. So for it's never hidden. And with the beetles we farm, generally they really put it even really clearly on the packaging, not only in the back in the list of ingredients, stating it's coming from insects, from beetles. It's about sustainability. It's about hypoallergenicity, digestibility. So they really claim it on technical range, more veterinary channels, aspect and e-commerce. So that's for pet food. Human food, same. So far, indeed, there have been the company we acquired was many smaller quantities, but with the price and the competitiveness of our technology, now we are going beyond the 5% per 5% ratio of cereal bars or minced meat. Another example, one of our customers, they are mixing 50-50 our beetle proteins with pea proteins. Because both they bring the texture, taste, and protein, I would say, amino acid profile, and they found the two are the good example. And I'm sure also with fungi we will have a great example. So then it's about claims and allegation. It's something also different. We do with science, and then how you put it on the packaging when you have good result on allergenicity, if you have good result on digestibility, on other health benefits. It's maybe I'm not an expert in how you show it in the packaging. There are rules indeed, and we need to follow, but that's the customer choice, and we are only a technical, I would say, a specialist, as you are even more specialist in the field, and we are trying to grow the space and help our customers to grow their segments.
So basically for Nathalie, it will be quite the same question, but I know you are in development, but did you already think about how would be your labeling and what claim the customer can do? Will it be like for insect a raw material if it will actually replace really the whole meat?
I guess, but there are people working on the development of hybrid products. So with a part coming from sales, this new type of meat, and a part like being plant-based meat, for example. It's difficult to know what's going to be even the name. Is it going to be just possible to call it meat? So we are not there yet. It's difficult to know. To me, what would help with the adoption of this product is to have a name that is easy for the consumer, so meat and not something else, because actually, again, the consumers are not really looking for new products. They want to continue eating what they are used to be eating, the product they like. So if we call it not meat but something else, that might think, okay, I don't know what it is, I don't know what to do with that, and it's going to be, I guess, maybe something very different, because when we see something that we don't know, we try to put it in a category. If it's in a category that we already know, it's going to be easier for the consumer. But I'm just maybe one figure out, not about meat, but precision fermentation. Like for example, for like just like a product that is available on the market in the US, ice cream containing milk protein made with precision fermentation. They have on the packaging that if the people that are allergic to milk protein cannot consume this product, because as it's the same protein, they will still be allergic to it.
Yeah. Hello. Yes. Hello. Can I hear? Yeah. It's okay. I'm Céline Lenné du cabinet Alim Avenir. I would like to ask all of you a question. It's about the prices. And for instance, for insects, what is the range of prices compared to soy and wheat? And as Denis said, they are very cheap. So you are competing with already alternative proteins very, very cheap. And for Nathalie, when do you think that cellular agriculture will reach price parity? Do you see that in 5 years or 10 years or before? And the same for precision fermentation. Do you think that we will reach price parity, for example, with milk or eggs very soon?
It's of course the key question, especially in an inflation time. So we are not in competition with plant-based proteins. Plant-based are the cheapest you can find on the market because of the size and just of the economies of scale. Building a new sector and startup takes time to be at scale. We are now at scale, and we are competitive, but with meat, with other animal proteins. So that's the benchmark. So for fish feed, it's fish meal. So we are competitive, and fish meal is the cheapest maybe of the source of animal proteins, and we are competitive in fish feed with them. It's again about different animal byproducts from lamb and chicken, where we are competitive, like a high chicken, low ash, high prot chicken and lamb. In pet food, we are competitive with them, and some of the customers here they do some minced meats, but whatever they are mixed or not, it's cheaper than some minced pork, for instance. Where one means could be 10, 15, 20 euros for this kind of animal meat. It's cheaper than that for intake ingredients. So we start to see we are reaching the price parity with other animal meats, which is what we want to do. Again, all the products here are here to help to reduce maybe the burden of animal proteins. We will keep eating animal proteins. Again, it's about eating less and having a more diversified source of ingredients. And I think all our plant-based are already very, very competitive. And from Ynsect and maybe ferments and Cellulaire, it's coming. And Ynsect is already more than 10 years of research and development and scale up. So we are at the scale that the customers are buying. So that's pretty attractive. For other sectors like chicken and pigs, which are less carnivorous, so you have way more plant-based proteins in there. It's more difficult to be competitive there. So that's the limit. So fish feed, you have pet food, you have human food. There is price competitiveness there. For below chicken and pigs, it's more difficult. There, it's more about the few percent of additives that could work. And of course, cattle is even, it's not the question yet because it's more, I will say, vegetarian animals.
Yes. About precision fermentation. Actually, is not new process. You have already amino acid. Most of amino acids are produced by fermentation. Is it competitive? Vitamins, food enzymes are already processed through fermentation. So, and we call that precision fermentation in the food industry, but historically we call that industrial biotechnology, and we use that to produce a lot of chemical already. So it's not new technology. Of course, there is some challenge for the dairy protein and eggs protein to reach the price between 10 and 15 euros per kilo, but it's not impossible. And also for single cell protein, it's already competitive. You have already a product on the market for a long time. And the most famous example is corn. Corn exists since the 90s at least. And today, a lot of technology of company are based on the corn process, but with some improvement. For instance, you have the company Enough, that's the same strain of corn, but the process is integrated in a sugar plant. So they have done some synergies to reduce the cost of the process. And you have also another company that is a member of B4C. It's a company from United States. And it's Naturefine. It's low-tech process to produce mycoprotein, and we can expect it will be competitive.
So I think that yeah, with precision fermentation, we might see reach price parity sooner than with cultured meat. Still very difficult to know when price parity might be reached because it depends on many things. Today, like the technical challenges are still very high. We need to improve like the whole process. So very difficult to really give like a date for that. Maybe in 5 years, 10 years, very difficult to tell. Maybe also something to have in mind is that if we talk about meat, people are going to compare with conventional meat, and conventional meat today is cheap because of the grant coming to the farmers. So the prices are like not real, actually, they are artificial. So it's again a question of where we want to put the money, what kind of proteins we want to help, because we could help reach price parity sooner if we have more resources. If we can improve the process, find the best raw material and everything.
To clarify a little bit, if you go straight from a plant without any subfractionation, the price of the protein is basically €0.5. Very expensive price is €0.5. Every time you go either through animals or through processing, you will add, of course, because animals will not have 100% yield, and processing will bring some costs coming from the energy, from the water. So you have to know that every time you escape from the straight line from sun, plants, and food, you will increase the value. But there is a major challenge. Every 11 years, humans are producing 1 billion additional individuals. And that's the major challenge we are facing. And I think all these technologies are trying to find a way to feed all these humans, because it will be a major challenge in the coming years.
Yep.
No. Yes, we cannot not have a question from a student, right? She has a question. Quick question, please.
Yes. Hello, I'm Aline Legal, and I'm.
You're going to need to stand up, speak louder. Be a girl. Who runs the world? Girls. Go ahead.
I just want to know what have you studied? What is your study? What is your school career?
Oh, what's your background? What did you study?
I'm scientist in engineering and agriculture, agronomy, agroparitech.
I am in training in philosophy.
Microbiology.
Business development, finance, and food science.
So as you can see, even philosophy can get you to science. Before they stop, I would like one key element that we should remember from each of your field that you have presented. If we were to remember one thing, starting with Nathalie.
I would say that, yeah. So the product in this domain are still under development, but we are bringing like a lot of resources, but it's really to answer the consumer needs to have a product that are as close as possible to conventional animal products.
Alternative protein is attracting a lot of attention, a lot of investments, but we need to be realistic and just go to the basics.
I would say it's time to use the power of microorganisms to cope with the state of our world.
It's often said insects are the food for the future. Future of food is really the food of now. It's ready, it's available, and it's coming more massively to the market.